Welcome back to another riveting episode of the Scamp Chronicles, where, if you're new here, I'm taking my very neglected 1988 Scamp 13-foot and converting it into a capable off-grid, off-road Overlander. In the last episode, we had a mad dash to finish up all of the suspension and the underpinnings so that we could do a planned family outing, and it went awesome. But it was just barely habitable. You can see there's not a lot in here for creature comforts. So in today's episode, I get to start on what we're going to do as phase 2 of the build, which is going to be all the creature comforts. And for the start, what I have to do is the electrical. I think that's my first step. I need to get the wires run so that I can fix a saggy headliner and start building furniture. I don't want to have to run wires after the fact. So that is what we're going to tackle in this episode. My original plan was to try and fill up this little cubby in front of the fender with the kind of electrical, basically the whole hub of the electrical, put a service panel here to get at it, but I feel like that's not going to be very accessible, and with an off-roader I really want to have access to all of the fittings and stuff so I can check them for tightness, make sure they aren't vibrating loose. So I've kind of rethunk my think, and I think I have an idea. I'm going to move it back here. Yeah, I've got the battery mounted back here at the very back, and I think what I'm going to do is put the whole electrical system here. This will give me good access all the way up to the solar array, and through the headliner everywhere I need to go throughout the camper. And once the bed is on here, that'll be easy to lift, and I will have much easier access to this area. We have electricity. Thought I'd give you a quick tour of my ultra simple house power setup. So under this bin is where the shore power comes in. You plug it into outside world. The only thing that powers is I've got one GFCI outlet here, just in case we're plugged into shore power and want to use 110. And then the only other thing that controls is the lithium charger. That feeds into a 100 amp hour, 12 volt lithium battery, and everything flows through the smart shunt from Victron. So that lets me keep an eye on my state of charge and draw, etc. Everything then goes into the smart controller. So solar will come down into here. Everything else goes in here. So I can also use this to monitor draw and charge and solar inputs. And then the entire thing is fed into this 12 volt accessory hub. These are commonly used in the off-road world to control 12 volt accessories like fridges and lights and winches, stuff like that. The really nice thing about them is that all of your circuits come in. They've each got their own fuse. Everything wires to this one place. You can keep it really close to the battery. And then through this single controller cable, the entire thing is controlled by one switch panel. So I've got all of my different circuits I can turn on and off. But then the really nice thing is that with one button, the entire thing is shut down. So I can turn it off when I'm done camping. Don't have to worry about any parasitic draw or anything like that because the entire system is shut off. Same button turns the entire thing back on. It remembers what you had on last time. So super easy to just plug in and go. You saw me make the mounting panel. It's an old aluminum sign. Fender bender came in clutch again to help me match the profile, although it was much harder to bend the aluminum than it was the steel. Everything on the panel is wrapped in an edge trim. That's just to make sure there's no sharp edges. Nothing is going to rub and chafe, cut through a line. And that is mounted to the fender with a few rubber standoffs. And then sandwiched in between the two is a bit of insulation, foam insulation, and that's just to create a thermal break. I'll probably end up doing that anywhere that the bare sheet metal is exposed to the interior humidity. So yeah, that is feels like luxury from what I'm used to, but the whole goal here is as compact and simple and easy to troubleshoot as possible, and time will tell if I accomplish that. Well, fall has fallen. You can tell it's face sweater season, and admittedly summer got away from me. Just too much going on and not enough time in the garage working on the Scamp. So situation on the ground is that I can't see that we're gonna have enough weather to try and do any sort of an excursion with the Scamp yet this summer, winter, fall. Maybe, we'll see, but hope is fading fast. I have also kind of resigned myself to the fact that due to the change in seasons, there's just not enough daylight to get anything done except on weekends once my regular job is over. So if I want to keep making progress, I'm going to need to bring it back in the garage. So that means pull the suspension off, squeeze it back in, and we can keep going on all the stuff on my to-do list. But before that, I would really like to get this thing on some crappy roads. Unfortunately, where I live, we don't really have a lot of off-road nearby, but we can certainly do crappy roads. And for me, for this whole project, it really wasn't to see what kind of gnarly stuff I can drag a camper through. It's to see how the suspension and tires would actually help the contents of the camper survive when you're just going over really crummy roads, because with overlanding, that's the majority of what you're doing. So I've got some major maintenance that I've been putting off, just about finished on the FJ, and when I get that done, My plan for the day is to hook up some cameras and get out and give the FJ a shakedown and get some cool shots from the undercarriage of the Scamp, because I see that Scamp has just dropped their Scamp X, which they went with a axle-less suspension, and they had some interesting shots of the undercarriage and them going over some bumps, and also composite floors. So yeah, I want to kind of do some side-by-sides now that I have something that they did, and see how mine stacks up.
So first off, sorry for the squeaks and rattles. I was scrambling to beat sunset and I didn't install the anti-rattle device on the hitch. And I'm fairly certain that's where all the noise is coming from. As I mentioned before, I don't have much real off-road available nearby, but at this stage I'm more concerned that the suspension is doing its job to keep the contents of the trailer from shaking to death. Because, well, let's be real, that is the majority of what we encounter when we're overlanding. Some important notes. During this test, the internal furniture is installed, but there's no other gear, bedding, food, or water inside, and no solar on the roof, so this is as light as the trailer is going to be, and if it won't work here, then I need to go back to the drawing board. And I also didn't air down the tires. Ultimately, at least in the FJ, low tire pressure is a really big part of the comfort, but I wanted to see the suspension work, so I didn't air the trailer tires down at all. And you probably know that the springs are what hold up the weight of the vehicle, and the shock absorbers control the motion of the wheel and axle. What many don't consider is that the shocks also control the movement of the vehicle itself. Shock absorbers literally mean absorb shock, and their job is to allow the suspension to move with the terrain, but also isolate the vehicle from that terrain. When we're fully loaded in the FJ with all our gear and the rooftop tent, we frequently encounter a situation where we have a perfect storm of our speed, the bump depth, frequency that causes the suspension to cycle the top of the vehicle wildly back and forth. We call these affectionately head tossers. Head tossers are really just a good indicator that our speed and weight have exceeded the capacity of the shock to do its job, and they can no longer control the movement of the vehicle. I was deathly afraid of that occurring in the camper, as it would throw everything inside around like a washing machine. So after seeing the clips of the new Scamp X, I noticed a few things that I was afraid of when I was considering my build. Number one is the lack of shock absorption. Timbren claims their elastomers have built-in shock damping, and the underneath shots of the Timbren axles look cool, but one thing I noticed in the Scamp X promo was a clip where they went over a little bump and the top of the camper just kept bopping back and forth after the bump was over, and this was at really low speeds. So I was really concerned that mine might do the same thing. I wish I had a cameraman along to duplicate that shot, but you can see throughout the clips that the horizon stays level with the bottom of the trailer for pretty much everything I do to it. Even at speed, there's no bopping about. It hits a bump and it stops. So in that regard, a great big success. So, like I mentioned, this is the last ride of the season, and I'll be pulling the suspension back off so I can get it back in the garage to work on over the winter. I hope you found this half as fun as I did, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.